All right, so I guess we are ready to get started. So when we are thinking about our purchase orders, typically it's not going to change. They're still going to come over Mondays and Thursdays for your location. So as you can see, I'm using Northern Liberties today as our test our test location to go through all of these steps and motions. But Mondays and Thursdays, they will go ahead and populate and ideally will show up in your Vetcove platform. And ideally what happens is that depending on where the item is listed as a supplier, it will go into that cart and or Vetcove will go ahead and try to find best pricing available for the product that is requested. So um, one thing I do want to run through quickly is just talking about our suppliers. So again, we know that through Vetcove, the orders are gonna, or a purchase order will generate on Mondays and Thursdays. Sometimes leaders would like to change or adjust the time. We don't want to necessarily adjust the day because we want to keep it consistent with how we've been doing it thus far. But if you're interested in kind of changing what your time of PO and the PO generation looks like, what you would have to do, you would go to purchasing, you would go to suppliers, and then you would scroll over to Vetcove. From here, you can hit edit. And then right down here, you'll notice the days are already selected as Mondays and Thursdays, but then you can also adjust your PO time depending on what is most convenient for you. So currently Northern Liberty says 8:05, just to give the center director a little bit of time to go in and just kind of look at things a little bit more clearly. So that is how you adjust your suppliers if at all interested in terms of the timing for the PO. So now we're going to go ahead and kind of identify what our purchase order looks like for the day. So it is Monday today here. So you'll go into purchasing, purchase orders, and you'll see that a Vetcove PO generated 5/13/2024. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. I'm just going to take a look and see exactly what we got going on in here. First thing that I kind of like to identify is how many items are on this purchase order. So when looking at it, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If I counted that correctly, I think we have 12 here. And all these 12 items will go ahead and therefore transfer to the shopping list and or cart in Vetcove, which I'll go ahead and show you. But essentially, you just want to verify that everything that is on your list is correct. If there is items that like you were anticipating to show up on your order or a team member potentially told you you're running low, a couple things that you'll want to check for. Um, First and foremost, did that item already populate on another purchase order previously? The goal with purchase orders is to keep them as clean as possible. So we don't want to go into the database and see, 50 different purchase orders just as kind of an identifier that we're potentially not stocking to a PO appropriately. So we really just want to make sure that we probably only have like a week's worth of POs at any given time. Sometimes it might be a little bit more dependent on if an item is back ordered or if it's taking a little bit longer to ship. I know that's like kind of we notice that a lot with our like really kind of frustrating like controls that we carry like that require a 222 form. So until the item is actually physically set to the PO, it won't go away. So that's first, making sure the item is not associated with any previous POs. Secondly, we want to take a look at our max and mins. So kind of just like a quick refresher on how to look at your max and mins. You'll notice your max and mins here on the purchase order, but you also can go into items and max mins quantity on hand and really take a look at what your max and mins are for each individual product. Now, say for instance that I was really interested in having one of our cytopoints here populated on a purchase order. You can notice here cytopoint 10 milligram injection. The minimum is 5, but I have 7 in hand. So of course it's not going to populate on a purchase order. You can go ahead and edit. And from here, take a look at what ideally your desired maximum should be, and adjust accordingly. So if I wanted to make this 7, it would then go ahead and populate on a future purchase order. If you were intending on ordering it that day, you would need to adjust your maximum to be 7, which I'm going to do right now just so I can show you guys. I'm going to go to the bottom. I'm going to elect save. I am then going to go back into purchase orders, add new, select supplier will be Vetcove. I'm going to hit go. And then you'll notice that Cytopoint 10 milligram injectable populated on a purchase order. So to get that to communicate with Vetcove, I would then hit generate PO. Please enter at least one quantity. Let me do that. And then it'll ask you if you would like to send the PO to a supplier, which I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And then send a CXML PO over to you via email. So that will go ahead and email everyone that's listed here, essentially just kind of confirming that you did in fact want to generate a purchase order. When we go back, you can notice that now for today, I have 2 purchase orders. I have my original one from Vetcove, and then I have my auto-generated PO that I created myself. So typically, auto creation of POs should only happen as if you are adjusting like your max and mins and you notice something is not going to populate on your purchase order. Then you would go ahead and generate a brand new purchase order. As a reminder, we always want to stock to a PO. So ideally, we're not going into Vetcove and just ordering things off scripts. Like we want to make sure that it can, we have like a little bit of a paper trail, into what was populated in a purchase order as well as what we're actually ordering. So now I'm going to go into Vetcove. And the first thing that I like to start with is my shopping list. Of course, when you click cart, you're going to start noticing that some items did generate, but that doesn't necessarily mean everything generated into your carts or your ideal carts. So I'm going to go into shopping, all shopping list. And then I'm going to go into my CUBEX items. And essentially, this is everything that will potentially go into a cart, but you need to just have a little bit of a review process. So just making sure that like the desired quantity that you're ordering is correct. Items such as like Simparica Trio automatically will go ahead and populate into the shopping list versus the shopping cart. And that's primarily just making sure that you're ordering the correct quantity on hand. We all know that like through CUBEX-supplier, Simparica Trio, you would have to order 2 5x6 box kind of setups. Now that we're ordering directly through Zoetis, we have to order 10 boxes. So the conversion's a little bit differently, which is why we kind of want you just to double check and make sure everything is looking okay before actually placing the order. When going through, you'll notice clindamycin was one of my items that populated on a purchase order. It is, in fact, in a cart. So you can notice on the side here, up here, it is in my Covetrus cart. But another quick way to identify if it actually landed in a cart is if you notice all these kind of gray diagonal stripes over the Covetrus symbol, essentially it's just telling you that it does live in a cart already. So you don't actually physically have to add it again. It automatically made it there. You can see that's true for Odancitron as well with PenVet. You can also see that's true with distemper vaccines or MWI. And kind of the beauty in Vetcove is that it's automatically populating the lowest cost. So these are kind of suggestions, like PenVet automatically populated. the Odancitron first because it's $1.17 compared to, Covetrus, which we're used to ordering from, is $2.74. So, it's $1 and some change, but over time that adds up and that can really impact COGS overall. So it's just very nice that it automatically will kind of pick the cheapest option for you. So kind of go right along. I am verifying that all my items went over into the shopping list. So really just looking in, I know that I started by saying that I had 12 items in my cart. When scrolling back up here, you can notice that only 9 items came over. So that means 3 of those items are either on back order, they need to be reviewed for, just like conversion, like ordering issues or any kind of, significant things that Vetcove specifically wants to kind of call to your attention. So when going back to my purchase order, I'm noticing that Elora 20 milligram is on there. So I'm just specifically going to look and see if that made it over into my cart and or shopping list, which it did, made it into the shopping list. However, this item could not automatically be added to the cart because it's on back order. So just kind of call out some of the symbols. Anything that's like a little red truck usually is a back order indication. So you can go ahead and hover over it. Like you don't have to remember it. It's very nice that it will tell you exactly what each of these kind of emblems mean. So currently, Allure is out of stock. So I'm accounting that into, my just that number quantity that I started with. So we said 12. So then I have 9 in the cart, so that would be 10. Atropine's on back order, that would be 11. And then I'm just going to find that last one. Let's see what else did not populate. And I believe it is... believe it's this hydromorph. Well, no, it was requested 5.9. So, needless to say, like primarily, you're just trying to kind of link up what's in your purchase order, and what is on the shopping list in the shopping cart. So, at the moment, I cannot find exactly what that one is, but I will kind of identify that as I go through. It might even be this Purina. Doesn't look like it. Okay, so kind of moving right along here. A new feature that is like really fantastic is like the ability to go ahead and, your shopping list can get a little bit clogged, because there might be some items that again like are on back order and or you don't want to order it. So there is a new piece of functionality out there. We have the ability to go ahead and remove items completely off of the shopping list, which is really helpful because, the POs automatically generate, like we mentioned, on Mondays and Thursdays. But you may have like a change in direction of, carrying a certain medication and or an adjustment for, or you adjusted your max and mins and you don't want to order that product quite yet. So I'm just going to pull up like the screenshots of like kind of what that will look like. So, under the product, you'll notice when it's requested, when the item ideally will expire. And then you'll notice this remove button. You would go ahead and select remove if you actually do want to remove it. It'll then ask, are you sure removing this item from your list will remove it from your PO in my CUBEX? So by doing this, it's not only communicating with the shopping list, it's also communicating with the purchase order in CUBEX. So it's going to update it in lifetime if you do remove it, which is super duper helpful in terms of just like keeping everything nice and clean. Okay, so, one piece of the puzzle that I wanted to mention is kind of confirming that our SKUs are correct in CUBEX, because that's a kind of significant piece to make sure that like the items are showing up appropriately in your shopping list and or carts. The good news is that you don't have to manage this kind of solo. This is something that is like an automatic kind of alert system that if you have an invalid SKU under a product, as you know, we're familiar with, like SKUs change often. The product may not be available anymore. But if a SKU is kind of, in place and it transfers over to Vetcove, it will then go ahead and if say the SKU is invalid, it will then alert you, letting you know that the SKU does need to be updated. It's not a valid SKU anymore. This is completed in kind of a two-step process. So through Vetcove, not only is it going to tell you, and I can share a picture of what that looks like at the top of your screen. Let me just share real fast. You'll notice here it'll say recent CUBEX orders require attention. Please review all items to see errors. We cannot find the following requests. So essentially, the item requests the SKU that is kind of in CUBEX. SKU 068390 is invalid underneath the Covetrus supply chain. So from there, essentially, what you're going to do is send a ticket over to operations at Heart and Paw. We are going to go ahead and review what the issue is, if it's like a product that is no longer kind of valid, or if it's just kind of like a quick piece of just updating the SKU. That is kind of the process in which, we would do and manage on our end. One thing that I can call out to be super helpful in that is if you have the SKU for the new product too. So as an example, say metronidazole 250 milligrams, say 068390 is the SKU for that product. Obviously, there's going to be an alternative for metronidazole 250 milligrams somewhere else. If you could find what that alternative is with that SKU and send that over in the ticket, that way we can review it and update, the SKU in the moment. That would be very, very helpful and just streamlines the process. One other piece that I will mention is that CUBEX also will go ahead and generate a report of all invalid SKUs. So as an example here, you'll notice that Cytopoint at one time, and this is back in February, needed kind of an adjustment of its SKUs. So we had to go in and all 4 of these items needed to kind of be manipulated so they populate directly into Vetcove appropriately. Now, once we fix them in CUBEX, we shouldn't see any other future issues with the communication between CUBEX and Vetcove. You'll notice that Cytopoint 10s, 30s, 5.4 Apoquel, Serenity 24s would then be in your shopping list and or shopping cart. So just wanting to call that out. So from here, I'm going to go back into my cart and just start to really review. Keep in mind, of course, some of our distributors do have minimal shipping requirements. So you may have to do a little bit of adjusting. Kind of to my point earlier, like Vetcove is really great in terms of like looking for the cheapest price, but keep in mind that like if shipping is going to kind of push you over, like, or the shipping cost is going to push you over to what the savings actually truly could be, it might be worth just sending it over to a different supplier. So like I only have $7.28 in my Penn Veterinary supply and the minimum is 175. So if I can't add white goods or another product to this Vetcove card, ideally I'm going to just go ahead and switch the supplier here. So you'll notice that all the pricing and all the suppliers that are linked currently to your Vetcove account will pop up if it is an available option. So ideally, still trying to go with the cheaper option, right? So I'm going to take a look here. So spend another $26.40. That's my MWI card. I'm going to transition that to MWI. Do I have a Covetrus card? I think I do. So I'm going to switch the Ondansetron to Covetrus. So really just making it make sense to what your shipping minimums are. Even here, like MWI, I still didn't hit my shipping minimum with transferring over the clindamycin, but is that an opportunity for me to be able to add like gauze or another white good specifically to this card to kind of get me over the hump? So I am going to go ahead and place an order just for Covetrus as well as BI. That way we can just see kind of what happens. But essentially, I'm going to proceed to checkout. Before actually officially submitting, it's just verifying all of your all of your information. So my shipping address for the clinic is here. I'm going to review the order again. And then I'm going to place your order. So order successfully placed with BI. I'm going to move over to the Covetrus cart. So you can see that I have 4 items in there. Awesome. I'm just going to stop there for a quick moment and I'm going to go back into my CUBEX. So now, because I placed an order with BI as well as Covetrus, those items are now going to fall off of this Vetcove PO and are going to be on a new PO from either Covetrus or BI. So essentially what happens is where you're placing the order with depending on the supplier you're placing it from, which all of our suppliers will kind of work the same exact way. They'll be separated out from the original Vetcove PO. You'll place your order. The purchase order then will then go and communicate with my CUBEX, and you'll see the purchase order for each individual supplier at your cabinets, as well as in my CUBEX. That just really makes it easier in terms of tying up stocking and making sure you're stocking to the correct POs. So you'll notice those items fell off of the original Vetcove PO, and 2 brand new POs were created based on your ordering. So I'm going to click BI. CureVax feline rabies 1 year populated, which is fantastic. You'll notice also that on order 25, that's exactly what I wanted. The order quantity again 25. So when I stock to my cabinet, and we'll go ahead here in one moment and pull up exactly what you're going to see on the CUBEX screen, but you want to make sure that that is always, exactly what was ordered. And so kind of thinking through that again, like with Henry Schein, Covetrus, got to get out of the habit of saying Henry Schein. But Covetrus, you'll notice clindamycin 300 milligram capsules. I ordered 100. So currently we had 0. That'll kind of take me over to my minimum. Datamars microchip, same kind of deal, just verifying that all of the mince maxes, or excuse me, all the on order stuff is correct. I verified all that. Again, I'm going to go back and eventually populate more of the POs and finally check them out. But just to kind of get you an idea of like what is supposed to happen for those POs as they are purchased and what it looks like in terms of the communication back with CUBEX. So I don't know, Chubbs, if you're available to share the screen, that way they can see how it looks on the cabinet. So kind of talking through what Chubbs is doing here, he's going to remote in and just show us exactly what the PO looks like. So if you notice, the BI order came over, so that's what the PureVax vaccine was, and you'll notice the PO number listed. So as we all know, the order comes in, you'll have like a paper sheet of like everything that's on that purchase order. You're essentially looking for the PO number, either at the top or wherever they kind of appear on your purchase order, and link it to what is in CUBEX. So just verifying that for BI, VC0FNHG1 is the PO that we are restocking for. So Chubb's going to go ahead and click it. You'll hit next. And then, as you can see, PureVax feline rabies is there. quantity 25 is correct. So we'll go ahead and click that once we're kind of in a position to actually stock it. Obviously, we didn't receive the rabies that quick. That would be insane if we got medication so quickly. But when the order comes in, we're physically actually going to restock it to that purchase order. So just keeping in mind that that is kind of the workflow process there. So yeah, that pretty much kind of covers all the ins and outs of the CUBEX Vetcove integration, and how we are kind of looking at COGS management a little bit differently. I certainly appreciate everyone's time in reviewing the process to generate and place orders through the integration with CUBEX and Vetcove. Again, if you have any questions at all, please reach out to operations@heartandpaw.com, and we can help, troubleshoot some things, and we can connect you either with Vetcove and or CUBEX to identify like any outstanding issues. But as always, it was a pleasure, and I'm really excited to see what you guys do with this platform.